Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well and staying home. Today's presentation will be about blended learning in flipped classroom. This presentation is divided into two parts. The first deals with blended learning, whereas the second tackles the issue of flipped classroom.
Hello everyone, my name is Asiya Al-Alami and I will be presenting blended learning approach. So let's see first what is blended learning. Blended learning is a teaching practice that combines or blends classroom and online learning. The instruction of a lesson occurs with both teacher interaction and computing devices for the purpose of enhancing learning. It requires the physical presence of both teacher and student, with some elements of student control over time, place, path, or pace. Blended learning can be implemented in many unique ways, generally using a combination of one or more of the following types. Number 1, the rotation blended learning model. It involves both face-to-face instruction time and online study time. It includes 4 submodels: station rotation, lab rotation, flipped classroom that we will see later on with Mr. Ahmed, and individual rotation. Number 2, the flex blended learning model. It's somewhat similar to rotation blended learning model. It primarily focuses on online instruction, while only small groups or specific learners will have access to the face-to-face instruction. Number 3, the a la carte blended learning model. It involves only online instruction, but the training may take place in a physical classroom or lab, may supplement the instruction that the learner will receive in a brick-and-mortar classroom environment. Number 4, the enriched virtual blended learning model. It's centered around face-to-face instruction, which is supplemented by online tools and resources after the instructor-led sessions have been completed. So how can we apply blended learning in the classroom? Here are 5 simple ways you can start implementing blended learning in your classroom today, even if you have little knowledge about the new technology. How long have you been teaching? 2 years? 5 years? More than 10? Even if you just recently started teaching, you have already created and perfected lesson plans, probably in a traditional teaching style. Okay, keep them. Do not waste your valued time reinventing all your lesson plans to work with technology. Instead, sit down with your lesson plans and think about how you can teach part of your lesson plans with technology. Could you add a short video you found on the web that relates to the lesson's theme? Having students watch a short video in class is a great way to break up a long traditional lecture. You probably have an anti-cell phone school policy, and there might be 3 or 4 signs hanging in your classroom right now that say, "No cell phones." Well, today is the day you throw those signs away. Although cell phones have the potential for distraction, they are also a piece of technology we all know how to use and students want to use, and one that you can easily incorporate in your classroom. Break from your lesson for a brainstorming session. Instruct your students to log into their Twitter account, although at this point they may think you have lost it. Tell them to tweet a content relating to today's lesson with a hashtag so you can keep track of who participated. The school bell rang in the middle of your discussion, and you wish you had just a few more minutes. Now you do. Assign a video to watch or a set of questions to do online prior to the next class session. But first you have to check if all your students have internet access outside of school. You can send students the video link or worksheet in an email, and then your students can be prepped and ready for the class discussion. For example, send a message to your students with the link to an online documentary, and thanks to technology you can now augment your lessons with additional educational info. Learning to collaborate is a key life skill. Many business teams collaborate on a daily basis, and working together effectively is key. You can teach this skill in your class with everything from homework assignments to huge projects. For example, Google Docs works just like Word, and the best part of Docs is that you can view and edit others' work simultaneously. This means that whether your students are in class or at home, everyone can stay involved. Try using Docs with a small assignment at first. Have all your students jump on a device and open a document you shared with them. Give them a question and allow them all to respond to the question on the shared doc. And as a result, students will be able to see how easily their work can be shared, and both you and your students will be ready for their next big project. During my middle school days, I remember having study sessions before a big exam. We would always play Jeopardy. My teachers would cover the chalkboard in a construction paper that had a dollar amount on one side and the question on the back. We divided into teams, and one person would go up to the board at a time. What if you could eliminate the construction board, some prep time, and the slow one answer at a time system? What if everyone could answer every question and all have the same time prepping for the test? Now they can. With a program like Kahoot, every student can be involved right from their mobile device. Break out these cell phones again and let every student review every question for tomorrow's test.
Hello everyone, my name is Nisa Idushan and I will be presenting the advantages of blended learning. The first one is creating student-centered context for learning, which means less teachers lecturing and more students working by using more authentic and student-driven tasks, which makes the content more engaging for students that they can create and use their own initiative networks to shape. The second benefit of blended learning is achieving higher student engagement. This has been attributed to the familiarity with technologies already used by students outside the classroom, and the novelty of some of the ICTs used in blended learning, like interactive whiteboards and computers. Number 3, change in teacher-students relationship. While teachers use data to personalize instruction, students have ownership on their learning, and they are allowed to assume the roles of leaders, mentors, and co-creators. As a result, a new trust and interactivity will be developed between teachers and students. Last but not least, flexibility and freedom to learn anything, anywhere. That means having some level of control over the pacing of their learning. Blended learning allows students to work at their own pace and level. Therefore, difficult concepts can be reviewed as often as necessary, alone or in groups. Now, let's take a look at some of the challenges of blended learning. Blended learning usually requires that all students and teachers have a computer, tablet, or a laptop. Needless to say, this is expensive to implement and maintain. The second challenge is that students often lack independent learning skills, and online learning can require more independent learning and taking responsibility for one's own education. Students' varied technological skills can also be a challenge in implementing blended learning. Some students are more skilled in using ICT than others. Weak connection. Internet outage can stop a blended learning model in its track, and the problem with server can wipe out important data and records for teachers and students. One of the most challenging aspects of blended learning is managing and assessing learners' progress, so it is difficult to keep track of learners' development. Although learners may complete an online course, but if they don't have a deep understanding of what they have completed, the learning impact will be nil. Therefore, to ensure that learning takes place, assessment should be introduced for online as well as classroom lessons. Then, results can be monitored, tracked, and used to ascertain that all learning requirements have been met. The last challenge of the blended learning approach is the problem of misdirected strategies. What does this mean? Let's explain. When the creation of an e-learning course begins, usually most focus is on technology implementation, and the actual design of learning content comes second, which is wrong. It is important for e-learning designers to go through a design process and determine the portions of the learning content that requires face-to-face time, the portions that require collaboration, and what learning content can be self-directed. From all what has been mentioned, we can say that only with adequate planning, online learning can be successfully implemented, and blended learning will be truly enjoyed by learners and teachers alike. In the coming video, we will see a school-wide approach to blended learning that allows teachers the flexibility to define and implement online instruction that meets their students' needs. While watching, I want you to pay attention to the mode of work and materials used in the classroom.
I can say that the things I've been doing the last 2 years have really made a difference because my kids have scored the highest in the state on the standardized tests. So what we're doing here is working and it's helping them be successful.
We define blended learning as the combination of digital content and activity with face-to-face content and activity. It sounds easy to blend, but it looks very different in every classroom. So if a teacher is using something that works really well in a face-to-face situation, they should continue to do that because it works well. If they can find something else that works better, is more efficient or more effective that's digital, then that would be implemented.
What I have online could be completely different than what the biology teacher has online or what the physical education teacher has online. It just depends what you need those kids to have in order to understand what they need to learn.
Okay, go ahead and get the laptops. And actually, anybody that's in a small group, come over here. I need you to get an iPad.
Why I wanted to go to a more blended environment was so that I could figure out a way to differentiate instruction within the biology classroom, and I wanted a way to be able to work with students in small groups while other students are still engaged in content learning.
There's 3 activities. One's a sorting sentence activity, one is an online interactivity, and one is small group that's going to be working with me. Okay, slide to the apps and open up EduCreations. We're going to fill in this chart because this is going to get us practicing base pairing between DNA, RNA, and reading our codon chart.
Okay, so what goes with G?
C. So I'm going to put G and C together like this, right?
I've probably learned more today just by doing this than I have the whole week that we've been doing this.
We looked at the research about blended learning, we defined it, and then we had to figure out what would it look like in my class. And so that's when I went, well, I actually want to use it more as a tool for the kids for like supplemental materials.
Top or the bottom of the cylinder.
There's always practice problems, or you can go listen to somebody talk about the topic. But the kids started to say that we don't want to listen to somebody else, we want to listen to you. And we need your help. And we want to hear your voice. So I started to go, okay, well, how can I do that? And so our technology person said, have you seen this app on the iPad? And me, not knowing anything about technology, went, I have no idea what you're talking about. Teach me. So we went through a process of me learning how to use the Show Me app. And then I started making podcasts. And it gives me a chance to be in their homes, wherever they are, 24/7. It's virtual Weller is what we call it.
And that will correspond to 6 to 9 like it has in the rest of the problems. The podcast like helps so much. It's like as if she's actually there and she just goes through it again and you can like finally understand it.
I see them, they'll plug in, I look over and they have it on their phones, they have it on their tablets, they have it on computers.
From this video, we can conclude that blended teaching is not just a matter of transferring a portion of your traditional course to the web. Instead, it involves developing, challenging, and engaging online learning activities that complement your face-to-face activities.
Hello everyone, my name is Ahmed Ushata, and in my part of the presentation, I'm going to talk about flipped classroom. What then is a flipped classroom? As we have seen with Mrs. Asiya, flipped classroom is a type of rotational blended learning that focuses on inverting the traditional classroom by delivering the lecture online and moving the homework and application into the class. Now that we have a basic idea about the nature of flipped classroom, let us look into concepts that are sometimes associated with flipped classroom but are not a full representation of it. Undoubtedly, many of you know the Khan Academy. While it is an excellent resource for use in and out of the classroom, the flipped classroom is special because classroom teachers create their own videos to suit their students' needs. We want students to be active in their learning, not droids sitting in front of screens. The videos are an extension of the teacher and help create a strong relationship between students and the teacher. Flipped classroom is not a replacement of the teacher. In fact, in flipped classroom, the role of the teacher is more important than ever. In flipped classroom, the role of the teacher moves from a lecturer to a facilitator of learning. The teachers look for opportunities to individualize learning by using different groupings in the classroom. Students that need extra help can use this opportunity for some one-on-one time with the teacher. It is not all about the videos. Indeed, they are fundamental to the flipped classroom. However, it is the flexibility that the videos provide which is the true benefit of this model. Teachers now have additional classroom time where they can develop rich learning activities, extend student learning, and individualize the learning process. The question now is, what do we flip when using the flipped classroom model? We flip the responsibility for learning. It moves from the hand of the teacher to that of the student. They take control over what they learn by watching the videos when and wherever they want, according to their own pace, since humans learn at different rates. We also flip face-to-face time. It moves from being teacher-centered to learner-centered. Since most of the activities are done in groups, the students share and build their own knowledge. Furthermore, we flip the focus of classroom time. To illustrate this point, let's look at Bloom's taxonomy. Usually, in a traditional classroom, the focus is on the remember and understand stages, which deal with lower levels of thinking, whereas in flipped classroom, the understand and remember stages are done outside of the class, maybe through a video lecture or discussion. Whereas in the class, the focus is on the apply, analyze, evaluate, and create stages, which are concerned with higher levels of thinking, such as problem solving, debating, and crafting. The students then learn to use and apply the knowledge rather than merely memorizing it. Now we come to the rationale behind flipped classroom. We all have sat in a class in which the bell will ring and save us from a slow death. Why is that exactly? Lectures are boring, not just for students, but for the teacher as well. Imagine repeating the same lecture multiple times a day or in a week, and then repeating it for years to follow. It's no wonder then that many teachers are not satisfied in their jobs. The second rationale is related to homework. Students hate doing it, and they come up with innovative excuses for not turning their homework. From the death of a family member, to losing their notebooks, to blaming it on the dog, this sweet dog. But some may say that the video lectures in flipped classroom is a kind of homework, since it's watched at home. To a certain extent it is, but it's different from the traditional homework since it does not require a lot of effort. So let's adopt the flipped classroom and prevent the unnecessary death of many sweet ladies just like this one. The third rationale for using flipped classroom is related to the potential of the students. Students are digital natives. Gone are those days where we begged our mothers for money to go to the cyber cafe and play games. And if you had a computer, you were considered filthy rich. Now practically everyone has a smartphone, if not a computer. Students are sometimes more knowledgeable about technology than the teacher. It makes sense then to use what students already know and feel comfortable using in the educational process. Let's move to the 4 pillars of a successful flipped classroom. As you can see, they can be summarized in the word flip. The first one is flexible environment. By flexible environment, we mean that flipped classroom allow a variety of learning modes in which educators can often physically rearrange their learning space to accommodate the lesson or the unit. Flexible environment also includes allowing students a chance to choose what they want to learn according to their own pace. The second pillar is related to learning culture. It is about changing the classroom culture from a teacher-centered to learner-centered, whereby the teacher promotes the students to become autonomous learners and take charge of their learning. The third is intentional content. The teacher thinks of how they can use the flipped classroom to help students develop conceptual understanding as well as procedural fluency by choosing what they need to teach, in which material should the students explore on their own. And last, but definitely not least, is professional educator. The teacher has to know the needs of the students, what is doable in and outside of the classroom, and he has to observe the students, provide feedback and assistance, and reflect on his or her practice. Let us now look at examples of lessons using the flipped classroom. The lesson will be seen is reading, with the post-reading dedicated to writing a small paragraph. In a traditional classroom, the pre and while stages are the main focus. So usually, the post-reading stage is given as a homework. Whereas in the flipped classroom, the focus is on the production stage, with the reading done at home when and whenever the student feels like it. And the discussion is done as well through online platforms such as Moodle in Zoom. And in the class, the students work on their paragraph with the teacher going around answering questions and assisting the students that need further help. Let's consider this video you're watching as part of your homework. In a flipped classroom, what could be the activities done inside the class? I encourage you to stop the video and think about it for a few minutes. I'm sure you came up with good activities. Here are some examples. Maybe asking questions about the role of flipped classroom, or maybe debating the advantages and challenges of e-learning. Finally, as future educators, we must make use of the technological breakthroughs of our modern age in the teaching learning process. And keep in mind that technology will not replace teachers, but teachers who use technology will replace those that do not. Thank you for your attention. Here are the questions you're supposed to answer after watching the video.